everyone, welcome to Headlines of the Day. This is 26th of March 2022 and we are back again with some of the major articles from the Hindu newspaper. Let's begin today's edition with the very first article on page number 1 from GS2 International Relations, that is headlined as Peace in Border Areas to Keep Normal Ties, India Tells China. So from this article, you have to understand what is the present status of normality in India-China ties, the border issues between both the countries and efforts to resolve them, and what is the possible scenario ahead. Moving further on page number 1 itself from GS2 Polity and Governance, there are two articles. First is about Supreme Court allowing UPSC aspirants with disabilities to apply for Indian Police Services. So from this article, you have to know about the recent decision of the Supreme Court to allow people with disabilities who have cleared the civil services written examination till April 1st to provisionally apply to the UPSC for selection to the Indian Police Services, Indian Railway Protection Force, and the Delhi, Daman and Diu, Dadra and Nagar Haveli, Andaman and Nicobar Islands, and Lakshadweep Police Services, DANIPS. And what is the objective behind this move? Also, there is another article that is headlined as Adityanath sworn in as Uttar Pradesh CM. So you have to learn the facts related to administration oath in legislature. Moving further, on page number 3 and 6, there are two articles from Government Policies and Interventions. The first article is about Assam to seek Aadhaar cards for those left out of the NRC. From this article, you have to understand what is the rationale behind Assam government's decision to approach the Supreme Court for directing the centre to provide Aadhaar cards to people left out of the updated National Register of Citizens published in 2019. Also know about the NRC and why was NRC updated for Assam, the eligibility for inclusion in updated NRC, and is there any link between the CAA and NRC, and what is the possible scenario ahead. There is another article that is headlined as Forging a Social Contract for Data. This is an editorial article from page number 6. And from this article, you have to understand what are the major features of Draft and Data Accessibility and Use Policy 2022, or the draft policy, its aims, objectives, key analysis, and the possible way forward. Moving further on page number 6 from GS2 International Relations, you have to take an article that is about Islamophobia. Now, this article is headlined as India's Complex Position on Islamophobia. This is an editorial article written by Mr. Vivek Kaju. And from this article, you have to know about the UNGA decision to adopt a consensus resolution declaring March 15 annually as the International Day to Combat Islamophobia, the objectives behind the move, and what is Islamophobia. Why do India and the European Union have major difficulties with the very basis of the proposal, and what is the possible way forward? Alright, moving on page number 8 from GS3 Economy section, there's an article about cryptocurrency. Opposition calls for law to regulate the cryptocurrency. From this article, you have to consider why is there a need for a legal framework to regulate virtual digital assets such as cryptocurrencies? What is the true nature of cryptocurrencies, the pros and cons, and what are the monetary fiscal challenges of cryptocurrency, the lawmakers and RBI stance on the legalities of cryptocurrency? Moving on page number 8 from GS1 Art and Culture, there's an article about Kerala Festival. Clara Sola wins Suvarna Chakram at the Kerala Festival. So you have to know about what is Suvarna Chakram. Moving on page number 9 from GS3 Science and Technology, this article is headlined as GSLV's last day mission may have failed due to a valve leak. From this article, you have to consider what are GSLV F10 EOS-03 mission objectives, why did it fail, failure analysis committee findings, and the recommendation in this particular context. Moving on page number 9, GS3 Defense Sector, there's an article about INS Valsura that is awarded President's Color. So you have to learn the key facts related to INS Valsura. On page number 10 from GS2 Welfare Scheme, there's an article about Udan Scheme. Udan gives girls wings to a better future in rural Rajasthan. So from this article, certain key highlights to consider are what is Udan project, its features, objectives, and achievements. On page number 10 from GS3 Science and Technology, there's an article about 5G rollout by end of the year, says Center. So from this article, the key highlights to consider are what is 5G technology, what are the benefits, concern, and status of development in India. Moving on page number 12 from GS3 Economy section, you'll find two articles. The first one is headlined as Fuel Prices Rising on Ukraine Conflict. From this article, the key highlights to consider are what are the outcomes of debate on the Finance Bill 2022, what are the factors behind rise in oil prices, their ramifications across globe and India, and what is the possible scenario ahead. Alright, there's another article on page number 12 itself from economy section, that is headlined as RBI sets geotagging rules for payment touch points. So from this article, key highlights to consider are key features of recently released framework for geotagging of payment system touch points by the Reserve Bank of India and why is it needed. Well, moving on page number 12 itself from GS2 International Relations, there's another article that is headlined as India, UK and Round 2 talks on the FTA. From this article, the key highlights to consider are the major highlights of bilateral free trade agreement between UK and India. You have to know about the bilateral relations between both the countries. So with this, we call it a wrap of today's edition of Headlines of the Day. For regular updates, you can follow us on our social media handles, and for more such videos, do stay tuned to the next IAS YouTube channel.